Hey everyone. So, of course, the planes haven't really been flying all day, and then they decide to now when I'm trying to film. So I think they've passed for now, I hope. And if you do hear one in the background, I apologize. Hopefully I am louder than the plane, and it's not too bothersome. But anyway, this is going to be a Jane Austen collection video. Or videos, I should say. I tried to just film them as a part 1 and part 2, but they were too big to upload, unfortunately, so I had to delete those and start over. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do them in little increments, and so the first one is going to be all of my main Austen novels, and then I'm going to talk about some graphic novels that I have, then I'm going to talk about some academic books and some not so academic books, and then talk about my DVDs. I think I'm going to try to fit the graphic novels into this video if I can, and then talk about the other things after that. So yeah, also I would just like to say Happy Easter. If you celebrate Easter, it's been a fantastic Easter Sunday for me. It's just been a really, really good day. And if you do not celebrate Easter, then just happy Sunday. I hope you're having a good day. So yeah, let's get started. First, we have Emma, and this is my Norton Critical Edition, and it's just fantastic. I had to get these when I did my my Austen class for senior year of college, which was about 5 years ago now, and I kept all of them except one, and I'll explain that when I get to it. But I love this one. This one might be one of my favorites because I love the blue, because blue is my favorite color, and then I just think this is a really beautiful painting on the front. And yeah, so this one is fantastic, and I have especially good memories of this one, or at least this edition, because I did a project for my Austen class that was on this book, and it was about like food during Austen's time and like table manners and stuff, and there is an article in this book that uses this image and or like diagram, I guess, and we, my partner and I used this and referenced this essay in our presentation. And the funny thing is, if my teacher ever sees this, she's gonna laugh at me or scold me, one or the other, but we ended up working so hard on the project that neither of us ended up having time to I think we both like skim read the book. She may have actually read all of it, but I definitely skim read it instead of reading the entire thing, and that was reflected very strongly in my quizzes that for that week. And so yeah, that was unfortunate, but I think I want to say I had read the whole thing before the class, because I did have a different copy of this that I actually gave away that I'm now regretting because it had a E.M. Forster quote on the front. But yeah, I gave it away because I didn't think I needed 2 copies. And I think that was the one that I read for the first time in its entirety, but I can't quite remember. So the first time I read Emma may have been for this class, and I may not have read it the whole way through. So getting ready to do this reread, I might actually be reading the whole thing for the first time. Not totally sure, but we'll see. We'll see what I remember and what I don't. But for now, I will say that George Knightley is my absolute favorite Austen hero, and Emma is definitely not my favorite heroine, but it's mostly because I don't really relate to her that well, and I just think that she is oblivious sometimes. So, yeah. Well, and she's also very self-involved a lot, but, I still don't mind her, but she's a lot more annoying in the book than she is in the film adaptations, unfortunately. And then I have Mansfield Park. I have these two Mansfield Park copies. One is my Norton edition. This is the one that I recently reread. And I believe when I reread it a year ago, it was the first time that I actually read Mansfield Park all the way through. And it was because I saw both versions of the film when I was younger, and I really didn't like the story. So because of that, I avoided reading the entire book as long as I possibly could. I skim read it for that class, which was another reflection of those quizzes, or it was reflected in those quizzes. And then when I saw From Mansfield with Love, that was the first time that I really got a new perspective and understanding of the story and Fanny Price as a character. And I had also gone through some things between senior year and now that really helped me empathize with her a lot more. So I do like this a lot better now, but unfortunately the people in this book that I hate are the reason why it's still last place in my Austen list. And then I have this Barnes & Noble edition that I got before I got my Norton edition, which I then rewatched the movie and didn't want to read the book, and then ended up skim reading it for class. And yeah, so I have this one still. And then I have my second favorite Austen book of all time, and that is, I have these two editions of Northanger Abbey. This was my first edition, and this was actually the first Austen that I read in its entirety, and unabridged. And of course that's not too hard because it's one of her smallest. But yeah, this book is amazing. It's my second favorite because I relate incredibly well to Catherine Morland, and I love Henry Tilney so much. Henry Tilney is my third favorite Austen hero. And yeah, he's completely fantastic. And Catherine might be my second favorite Austen heroine, I think. I think she is. But, I'm not quite sure. I don't know. Anyway, but I love this book so much. So I love it for nostalgia, and I love it for how much I love the hero and heroine, and also their relationship. I think they are, like, as a couple, I think they are my favorite Austen relationship. They are either tied or followed closely second by Emma and George Knightley. And then I got this version because I gave away my Norton Critical Edition, and the reason I gave it away is because it had the creepiest abstract art on the cover, and I get that it was supposed to be like that because of the content, like it's supposed to be a spooky book, but it creeped me out, so I gave it away, and now I'm upset that I gave it away because it had some amazing essays in it, so I may have to find it again and, like, repurchase it. Not my exact copy, obviously, but that edition. So I got this one, which is the Penguin English Library edition that I love so much. I love the keys, and I love the color, and the print is really nice, and that's actually why I got it, because I wanted an edition that had nicer print, or like bigger print, and this was the version that I reread back in October. And then we have Persuasion, which this is my only copy of Persuasion. And this is one that I'm really looking forward to rereading because I remember absolutely loving Anne Elliot, and I remember absolutely loving The Letter. The Letter is my favorite love letter in all of literature, and maybe my favorite love letter that I've ever read in my life. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. But I don't remember how I felt about Captain Wentworth in the book when we read the book for my Austen class, which was the first time for me that I'd ever read it. I know how I feel about him in the film, but that's because I love Rupert Penry Jones so much, and I think I'm putting my love for the actor, like his acting ability, into the character, and I feel like I should judge the character on his own. So I'm really excited to reread this to figure out how I feel about Captain Wentworth exactly. And then I have this super cute little edition of Pride and Prejudice that I got. I got this with my grandparents when we were in London, and I have a different edition of one of these. The edition that I just showed you of Northanger. And as you can tell, there's a bit of a difference, and that's because the American editions don't have the pretty little color illustration, so that's one thing about the UK editions that I like a lot better. But they both have black and white sketches on the inside, which is a huge bonus for these editions. So yeah, this has really great nostalgia for me from when I went to England with my grandparents. And then next up we have the Barnes & Noble leather-bound edition of Pride and Prejudice that I love, and I bought this when I thought that I was going to need it for my Austen class. Little did I know that we had to buy a specific edition. So I just kept this because it's beautiful. So, you know, no harm in having two copies. And this has the very famous quote on the back that's the beginning, that is, "It is the truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." And then I have my Norton edition, and I love this edition because I love the kind of mint, the kind of mint green color, and I love the white on the side, and that they, the picture that they used to represent Pemberley, I think is really, really gorgeous. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites. And this is the edition that I just reread, because I wanted to mark it all up with the tabs. And actually, I actually followed along a little bit in all three versions while I was listening to my audiobook. And speaking of that, I don't have it to show you since it's an audiobook, but I have the Audible edition of the audiobook for Pride and Prejudice, where they got Rosamund Pike to narrate it, and it was fantastic because Rosamund Pike played Jane Bennet in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, and she is a wonderful actress, and she is an incredible narrator, so that was a whole lot of fun. Now for Sense and Sensibility. I have this copy, and also real quick I should mention I used to have this copy of Pride and Prejudice when I was little, because I got these at the same time, but then that copy of Pride and Prejudice very sadly fell in a bowl of chicken soup because I made the stupid mistake of reading while I was eating soup, and it was a tragedy because that cover was the best. It had a really gorgeous illustration of Lizzie and Mr. Darcy, and it was beautiful, and it is no more, sadly. I need to get another copy of it. But anyway, this is the abridged Puffin Classics edition of Sensibility, and I really love this illustration. And when I was younger, I automatically assumed that this was Eleanor and this was Marianne. But for anyone else who had this edition, I want to know if you guys thought the same thing. And I did not know that this was the abridged edition until I was a sophomore in college, and it made me really mad because for 8 years, I thought that I had read the full version, and I had read an abridged edition. I don't know how I didn't know, but I didn't. So, yeah, then I think I just ended up rereading this copy, and then I think I read it in full. I either read it in full from the library that year, or I didn't read it, I didn't read the unabridged edition until this class that I had my senior year. But anyway, so that's the one from my childhood. And then this one is the one that I bought as the twin to Pride and Prejudice. Again, when I thought that that I was going to need it for my class, And this is actually the edition that I ended up reading, and then I just ended up taking my Norton edition with me to class to read the essays, but this was the edition that I actually read on the weekend when we were supposed to read the whole thing. But yeah, so this is beautiful, and the quote this has on the back is, "It is not time or opportunity that is to determine intimacy, it is disposition alone." And then we have my favorite edition of probably any of them. Oh, okay, pause. My Norton edition of Sense and Sensibility I still have. Definitely, I didn't give it away like Northanger, but I have it on loan to a friend right now, because I've basically been trying to get her to read that book for a few years, so I'm just letting her keep it until she eventually reads it. But I may have to ask for it back kind of soon, because I do want to read the essays in it, but then I might just give it right back to her and say, okay, go ahead and read it. But anyway, this edition is beautiful. I love it so much. This is the Splinter edition, and this is the one that they came out with this in 2012, and it is gorgeous, and I love it, and I saw it in Barnes & Noble, and I was like, you have to come home with me right now. I was like, you are not staying in the store. And this has one of my favorite quotes on the back. It says, "I am convinced that I shall never see a man whom I can really love." And that is a quote by Marianne Dashwood. And oh, how little she knows. That's all I'm going to say about that. So yeah, this edition is gorgeous and I love it. And I also have the matching one for Jane Eyre, but that's a different video. Okay, so those are all of my main Austen books, and I'm going to go ahead and stop here and hope this uploads and start on the next segment. So thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you think of any of these. Let me know what your rankings are for the Austen books. And did I mention this is my favorite? It is totally my favorite, and but I don't know if I said why, and that is because I feel most like I'm a combination of Eleanor Dashwood, Marianne Dashwood, and Catherine Morland from Northanger Abbey, as far as my personality goes. And also Eleanor Dashwood is my favorite Austen heroine ever, and Colonel Brandon is my second, sometimes tied for first, favorite hero, along with George Knightley from Emma. So that's why I love this so much. Okay, I'm going to go and hope this uploads. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in part 2. Bye.